Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying for Beginners with Jim Misiura. Today we're going to tie a gold-ribbed hare's ear. And we're going to actually tie a bead head gold-ribbed hare's ear. Now the materials that we're going to need a standard length nymph hook. You can tie these, if you use a bead, you can go up to 2 or 3 extra long nymph hook. This is what I'm going to use, of number 471, size 12. This is a Lively Legs lip splitters, and it is 1 extra strong standard length. Generally, when you use a bead, you're going to use a longer one, maybe a 2 extra long. We're going to use hair dubbing for the body, and here we have, I'm using Hemingway's hair dubbing, or the hare's ear, and here is some more natural hare's ear material, and you can see how choppy and it is. It's going to be a very spiky look to it. We're also going to use some gold tinsel, and here is gold and silver tinsel, and this is for size 16, 18, but this is a 12, but I like a thinner rib on my hare's ears. You might use a number 14 hair gold and silver tinsel. For our tail, I'm going to actually use, this is a red squirrel hide, but I'm going to use the guard hairs from the back. The guard hairs are, if you look in here, you can see the guard hairs are those long ones, and then the under fur is the fuzz that's holding underneath. But I just like this color. This color is going to be a nice match for the hare's ear. You can use different things. You can use Hackle stem or Hackle barbels. Just pull some of these off and use them for your tail. And then for our Wingcase, I'm going to use a turkey tail. You can see a molted turkey tail. You can see all the molted marks in these, but frankly, the molting doesn't always come out on it, show on it, because of the size of the Wingcase that's going to be on it. And I'm going to use some brown thread. When you're tying nymphs, you want the thread to kind of match the color of the nymph itself, unless your pattern is specifically telling you to use a different color. But you're not even going to see much of the head, if any. So we're going to get started. Well, the bead that I have, this is a 2.4 millimeter tungsten bead. Tungsten is heavier. You can use the regular beads. I use them all the time. And if I want them heavier, if I use the regular bead and want them heavier, I just add a little bit of lead weight to it also. But the beads itself, you can see there's the rear section of that bead is a little bit flatter. That's because these beads are countersunk, meaning the hole in the one side is larger than the hole in the other. So when you put your hook through the bead, you want to put your hook through the small side so that the large side ends up towards the body. If the large side was towards the hook, you run the chance of having the bead cover the eye of your hook. So getting started, I'm going to put a base of thread on the hook. We just wrap it over itself and then hold your thread at a 45-degree angle, and you can get nice tight turns without even thinking about it, because that thread is going to push them together. And we're going to come down to just about where it would hang at the barb. And then if you have your thread wrapped around your finger, you can just break it. If you're using a heavier thread, I would recommend to cut the thread. Now, I'm going to put the tail on first, and I'm going to take this, I'm just going to grab a pinch of my squirrel back. Just going to grab a pinch, hold it there, it doesn't have to be big, and cut it nice and close to the hide itself. So here we have, this is the cut end, and this shows you a good example of, see there, the guard hairs are the long ones, and that fuzz is the underfur. I'm going to keep them together, always pinching them nice and tight, and then I'm going to take the long hairs out of it. There's a lot of guard hair right there. You can see all of that on there. That actually, you can dub that onto your, you can dub that fuzz onto your thread and use it. But I want this tail to be about half the length of the hook shank, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it at that point. And I'm going to say about right there. Now that's really long, so I'm going to hold these in my hand and I'm going to trim some of this. Get that little fuzz out. Now I place it back on the shank. I'm going to put the thread between my fingers, pull it straight down. This is a loose loop. Put it between your fingers and pull it straight down. And then you can go ahead and wrap. And if you see how it's like kind of spinning there a little bit, you can just hold your fingers on it and kind of move it up with your fingers. Then I'm going to bring my thread back. And here we have our tail. A couple of them a little bit long there. Just going to go ahead and pull them out. You can see how hard I had to pull to get them out. So they're secured pretty well. Now we're going to put our tinsel on. I'm going to take about just one wrap off the spool itself. And these spools have a little notch in the side so that you can store the spool without having them unravel on you. Go ahead and trim that, cut that off. And now, because it is gold on one side and silver on the other, and this is a gold ribbed hare's ear, I'm going to tie this so that the gold side is on the shank and I'm seeing the silver side. And when I wrap it, the gold side will be exposed. So just go ahead and put a few wraps on that. And that isn't quite long enough to make it to my material clip. Now, if you have a rotating vise, you want to turn your fly over, your hook over, and I'm going to take, the abdomen is going to be a lighter color, so I'm going to take the Hemingway hair dubbing, and this is natural color, and this is a lighter color. And I'm just going to take some of that. And when you're dubbing, you always want to use a little. Smaller is less is more. You leave the guard hairs in there, and we're just going to put the touch the thread with the dubbing and then twist. And you always want to twist in the same direction. Don't go back and forth, because you put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off. And we're going to make about a 3-inch length. And you want your noodle skinny. And we're going to make about a 3-inch length on this noodle. Sometimes you gotta kind of lick your fingers. All this material dries your fingers out. And I got about 2.5 inches there. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more. Take just that last little pinch. And now I have about a 3-inch length here. Pull that, get yourself a nice tight noodle. Nice tight noodle. And we're going to wrap that. We're going to make sure we get right to the tail so we don't have any thread exposed. And we're going to wrap the abdomen. I'm going to reach the thorax, and then I'm going to go back, and that is building a little bit of a taper there, and then come forward. Now I'm going to bring my hook right side up. I'm going to take my tinsel, and I'm going to wrap this. It's going to be about 3, maybe 1, 2, 3, and we're going to tie that in. Make sure you keep a nice tight grip on your tinsel until you get at least that first wrap on there. Now I'm keeping my thread tight. About 3 wraps is good. I'm going to fold it back. 1, 2, 3 wraps on top. Go ahead and trim this off. Remember, when you're dubbing, you can always add more. I'm going to go ahead and trim that one long guard hair out of there. Now we're going to put the wing case on. I'm going to take the turkey feather, and I'm going to pull this wing case off at about 1/4 to 3/8 wide. I'm going to cut it off. When you're taking material off a turkey tail, stiff material off a stiff stem, you want to cut it, because pulling it is only going to ruin them. So now I'm going to take the tip. I'm going to trim a little bit of the softer material from the tip. And I also got a good molted spot there. So I'm going to place this on top. You want to kind of pull it together and tie it in. Oop, missed a little piece. Go light, loose loop, pull it straight down. And when you have that on there, it should be pretty much flat. Go ahead and secure that. Bring our thread back to the wing case. I'm going to just turn this sideways now. Now I'm going to use the darker hairs here for the front. But before I do that, being that this is so dry and it's chopped up, it was put in a blender, there's not a real lot of underfur mixed in this. So what you want to do is you want to wax your thread. So I'll just take my beeswax and run it up and down on there a few times. Wax that pretty good. And here, this lighter hair dubbing has a lot of underfur in it, so that's why I didn't need the wax on the other part. But it doesn't hurt to wax your thread. I really wouldn't recommend buying pre-waxed thread. A lot of them end up gumming up your bobbin tube, and then you end up breaking your thread. Now I'm going to take some of the dark hairs here with all of the guard hairs in there, and I'm going to dub this, and this is going to come out looking a little bit fatter, but remember, you want it small. It's like you want the amount that you almost don't know that you have any. Get that real long guard hair out of there. And I'm going to wrap this because I don't like using a real long thread. So we're going to wrap this, and this is going to just show you that you can always add more. We'll take some more, put a little moisture in my fingers. And again, just small amounts. And we're going to probably add more, maybe a couple times. Okay, that's way too skinny, so I'm going to go ahead and dub more on there. And also another thing with your dubbing, you could take it and kind of stretch it out there a little bit. See how it's like longer? And we're going to dub it on again. And one thing with hare's ear dubbing, you can maintain a skinny profile and still have a lot of hair on there, as long as you don't pile it onto your noodle. Do it again. And this one I got a little bit thicker. There we go. And the reason I'm piling it on the thorax is because the mayfly nymphs, the thorax are always bulkier or fatter. And then I'm going to bring that right up to the bead. Now we take our wing case, we're going to fold that over. I'm pulling on it, but you know, not too tight. And I'm going to give it a wrap with my left hand, and I'm keeping the tension on there. And you can see the front going up. I'm actually pulling it down into the bead there. Just 2 or 3 wraps. Put a wrap or 2 in front of it. Then we're going to trim that off close. Now I can take my whip finish. I'm going to use my whip finish. I'm not going to use my fingers on this one. Put the hook over the thread, come around the camel hump, and then you're turning your whip finish upside down, and now we got that X there. Slide that X into the fly. Once, twice, 3, maybe 4 or 5 times if you'd like. Slide it off the camel hump, pull the hook up, slide the hook out, take your cuticle trimmer, poke and snip, poke and it is snipped. Now we're going to take our head cement, clean that brush off well. I'm going to put it on the bead itself and it'll just roll right in. Kind of half on the bead, half on the material. And now this is sufficient right here. Got a real long guard hair there. But you can also go ahead and take this and take your dubbing teaser, and a dubbing teaser can be as simple as your bodkin needle and tease some out. But what works better is I have used 2 different types. I actually use a bore brush cleaner for cleaning your gun, and that works really well. You can see how quick that's picking that right out. And the other option is get a piece of Velcro, and I have this piece of Velcro attached to my poke and snip, and that Velcro will just pull the material right out. Just kind of rub it on there. Get those real long ones off there. Got a couple of real long ones there. I'll just trim them. And here we have the gold-ribbed hare's ear. Hope that you learned something from this video. Hope that you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Leave comments, questions, suggestions. Please visit my sponsors and let them know I sent you. If it wasn't for my sponsors, I wouldn't be making all of these videos. And if you'd like to purchase any of the flies that I make, go to etsy.com/shop/theflymanjim. If you don't see it on there, just give me a message, tell me what you want, and we'll figure it out. And most of all, thank you very much for watching my videos.